Hello beautiful people, and welcome to your little hybrid video that I'm coming back with. You might have already seen my collaboration videos that have been released prior to this one with my fiance Aaron. We already published our little summary of Bali, and also with my solstice Marissa we already published our November energetical update. So this is a little video of my own. It doesn't have a particular structure. It is not going to be just astrology or just practical application of astrology. It's going to be a little bit of mixture of everything, because this is technically what I want to talk about. I haven't quite come up with the idea of how exactly to move forward. I feel that I need a little bit of more time to digest everything that actually transpired in the past 2 months to decide what is the new direction for me. So I'm just coming on with some kind of messages over here, and also I do want to give you some November highlights with regards to astrology before I dive deeper into my personal share and what's been going on for me and what am I processing. But I will not be diving into the lunation. So if I feel the energy is right for it, I will record a separate video next week for the full moon in Taurus, which we'll be experiencing on November 5th, right? Because I am looking at my notes because I'm not quite fully tapped into everything that's going on astrologically. So I am going to be looking into my notes. So I am going to start with the astrological overview or astrological highlights for the month of November minus the lunations, and then I'm going to take from there, I'm going to take it into more of a practical application share. So, as I already mentioned, we have full moon in Taurus that we are beginning the month with on the 5th of November. This will be 13 degrees, 22 minutes of Taurus, therefore second decan of Taurus, Virgo decan, all about adjustments, because this is a full moon to the new moon we experience at the end of April. And at the time we had not yet Saturn in the sign of Aries or Uranus in the sign of Gemini. Saturn is back in the sign of Pisces now, but Uranus is still for next few days in the sign of Gemini. All right, and then we will have new moon in Scorpio on November 20th, and this one will be yet another lunation on 28 degrees. We're actually going to have all the new moons on 28 degrees until I believe the new moon in Aries, which will be in April, I believe. So yeah, everything will be on 28 degrees, which I think is very interesting because of course 2 and 8 adds up to number 10, and that's the year we're going to be entering into next, well, technically in 2 months. I'm recording this on October 31st. So actually happy Halloween, everyone, even though I'll be releasing this tomorrow on November 1st. But yeah, by the time you are watching this, we will be not yet 2 months into the new year. So it's coming around very quickly this year, number 10. So anyway, yes, new moon in Scorpio on November 20th. Then stationings, we will have Mercury station in retrograde. Mercury is currently in his pre-retrograde shadow as I'm recording this, still in the sign of Sagittarius. So Mercury will be stationed in retrograde on November 9th on 6 degrees and 51 minutes of Sagittarius, but then Mercury will return back into the sign of Scorpio retrograde on 19th of November, so prior to this new moon in Scorpio. And then Mercury obviously will station direct at the end of the month on November 29th. So station in retrograde November 9th, moving back into the sign of Scorpio on November 19th, and stationing direct on November 29th. Can you see all the nines over there? Which is all about endings, combinations. All right, and we also have Saturn stationing direct this month on November 28th. Actually, for some people, it will be November 27th. I'll be in Mexico at a time when that will be taking place, so it will be on November 27th for me. However, for people over here in Europe, it will be on November 28th, which again, we have the number 28. And then other ingresses that will be taking place, we'll have Mars moving to sign of Sagittarius on November 4th, Venus moving to sign of Scorpio on November 7th, Uranus is going to retrograde back into the sign of Taurus on November, I believe 7-8, right? Because I have November 8 here, but this is for Europe. And then we'll have Mercury retrograde back into the sign of Scorpio, as I already mentioned, November 19th. Sun is going to move into Sagittarius November 22nd, and Venus is going to move into the sign of Sagittarius on November 30th. And then some of the main transits will be that will be taking place: Venus square to Jupiter November 3rd, Mars trines to Neptune November 4th. Also on November 4th we will have Mars opposition to Uranus. November 6th Mars will sextile Pluto. November 8th Venus will square Pluto. November 8th Sun will trine the North Node. November 13th Mars will conjunct Mercury. This will be the second conjunction. This is while Mercury is retrograde. They already had one in Scorpio just this past few days ago. Scorpio. And then also on November 17th, we'll have Sun trine Jupiter, November 17th again Sun trine Saturn, and November 17th also Mercury retrograde sextile Pluto. So this will be the second one, because actually today, as I'm recording this on Halloween day, Mercury had a sextile with Pluto last night. All right, then Venus will trine North Node on November 19th. Also on November 19th, Mercury will oppose Uranus and trine Neptune. That will be all happening on the same day. November 19th seems to be a busy day, same as November 17th. And then November 20th, we'll have Mercury conjunct Sun, Mercury retrograde conjunct Sun in the sign of Scorpio on 28 degrees. And then on November 20th, also Uranus retrograde in Taurus, back in Taurus, will be making a sextile to Neptune 29 degrees 29 minutes. Interesting, 11:11. All right, then we have November 21st, Sun will oppose Uranus 29-26. November 21st, Sun will trine Neptune 29-28. And then November 22nd, Mercury will trine Saturn. November 23rd, Mercury will trine Jupiter. Also same day, Sun will sextile Pluto. And then November 24th, we have Mars square the lunar nodes. And November 25th, Venus will conjunct Mercury. November 26th, Venus will trine Jupiter. November 27th, Venus will trine Saturn. November 30th, Venus will oppose Uranus, yes. And then November 30th, Venus will trine Neptune. So this one, some of the main ones. I'm sure there are many other things going on, but this is what I've got going on here. So as you can see, it's a busy month. Obviously, everything transiting through the sign of Scorpio is making a positive aspect to the lunar nodes, and then everything moving to the sign of Sagittarius is then going to make a square to the lunar nodes. So this is definitely activating these axes of Virgo and Pisces, and we know that these are affecting everyone because, of course, Pisces is all there is the spirit, and Virgo is the incarnation of the spirit, is the physical form of the spirit, is those who walk the earth, right? Everything that is in our incarnated form and having an experience in this three-dimensional reality. So it is a cramped month, as we can see that also we have a lot of ingresses and stationings. Saturn will be going direct, as I mentioned, was it 27th, right? For most of us, November 27th. And the Neptune will station direct next month. So slowly, surely, we are going to start moving forward with these energies that we experience, the new energy, the new flavor of Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries, also Uranus in the sign of Gemini, and then going back into the sign of Pisces for Saturn and Neptune, and then going back, going forward, so going from Aries to Pisces retrograde. So we are accelerating the integration, and then once they move forward in the sign of Pisces to be getting ready for the second ingress for November into the sign of Aries will be January, for Saturn February, and then the two will have their exact conjunction in the sign of Aries on 0 degrees in February. This will be the forward momentum with regards to, okay, now where are we going with this? What are we manifesting? What are we creating? Same for Uranus. Obviously, Uranus currently in the sign of Gemini, still on that anaretic 0 degrees retrograde from November 7, 8, depending where you are in the world, back in the sign of Taurus until April 26th, which is when Uranus will move back into the sign of Gemini. And then, of course, we'll have also Chiron ingressing into the sign of Taurus for the first time next year prior to the summer, and the nodes will be changing the sign in July 2026. So we'll have a lot of masculine energy. Also, Jupiter will be moving into the sign of Leo at the end of June, beginning of July, again, depending where you are in the world. So this is all a young energy. So right now, this is a preparation for that. Right now, especially while we have all these planets retrograde, this is an integration of these new seeds. And this is where I can switch technically to my personal experience, as I shared in my last videos, which were recorded and pre-recorded at the beginning of September prior to my travel to England, and then after that travel to Bali for my for my little experience over there of 5.5 weeks, which was completely different to what I experienced, what I anticipated or expected. But we know that expectations hardly ever live up to our well, expectations live up to our expectations is never what we really think it's gonna be, but it was, I guess, everything that my soul needed to experience in order for whatever comes next to take place. Like, I don't really understand everything that's took place just yet, you know. I really feel that it has to be integrated and digested over a period of time for me to have a full clarity what actually happened. But yes, so going back to what I started saying, prior to my trip, I thought it would be a certain way, especially Bali, you know, everything you hear about Bali. And as I mentioned, I already shared how that played out, you know, from the everyday perspective, mundane experience. I shared that in the video with my fiance, with Aaron, that was released a few days ago, so you can check it out if you wish to. But yeah, it was nothing, at least for me, you know, like, can only speak for myself, what I thought it would be. I thought, like, okay, going to Bali is going to be all about meditation, just sitting there getting downloads and stuff. And it was actually, I really felt that it was even busier for me being in Bali than when I'm here, even though here is usually the interaction with the clients and working and stuff. And obviously this whole summer was completely unexpected, very different to what was planned or expected or anticipated. Everything played out very, very differently with all the shifts and changes and turns and stuff. So then Bali was yet another surprise, because again, I felt that, or I thought it would be more of a like a yin energy, and the place is very yin, just as we shared. It is a very yin energy, but actually there was a lot of busyness involved in this. It's very hard to articulate how it really felt, because it is, in a sense, it does trigger or awaken certain realization, but it's through a lot of chaos and a lot of noise and a lot of interaction with the external environment, because of course that being a new environment, like it's being hyper sensitive, hyper aware, like the interaction of my being with that environment. So it wasn't just like, okay, yeah, this is something I can sleepwalk through, because it's, you know, like in our everyday reality, everyday life, when we keep doing the same things over and over again, then we can just like sleepwalk through our life, you know, being asleep behind a wheel, because, you know, it's just the same routine we've done a million times before. But being in Bali, it was like being very aware, very vigilant, very connected and present to that felt present of experience of what we've been going through and what I've been going through. So I really feel like right now, being currently, as I'm recording this, we are visiting my family in Slovakia. We're actually traveling tomorrow, so that's why I'm recording this today on the 31st, on Halloween day, publishing tomorrow. And like I said, I don't really feel that I have a full clarity regarding how do I want to create my content, where do I want to go from here, or anything. So I thought I just want to share really what's on my heart, you know, give you some astrological things. But like I said, for the lunation video, I have to wait till next week to see whether I can record anything and decide, like, do I want to record separate videos for the lunations or just one video a month, or what am I going to do? Because in no way I want to continue exactly the same way things were before, where I felt like I was a slave to my own schedule, creating certain like routines that then I felt enslaved by, even though I was the one creating them. You know, Saturn, you know, this Saturn energy is very present at the moment, and being willing to take responsibility for that and say, like, okay, well, this doesn't actually work for me right now, so let's just change it. And you know, like being the conscious creator, like, what am I changing it to? So this is the question mark. This is where there is not much clarity, like, okay, I don't want to do the things how I did them before, but I don't know what I'm changing them to. So how this tied up to Bali, you know, in Bali I was in a complete pause, like I was not creating any content, not doing anything, like not doing any reading, nothing, just like fully being present. And obviously there were still interactions with the external environment, like ghost of the past knocking on the door. And because it was like this capsule of time and space, like being in Bali, like we just like you cannot get busy, like, okay, I'm not gonna deal with this, you know, I'm not gonna ignore it because there are other things going on. Like, no, there was nothing going on. So it's like, okay, there is something that wants the attention, and it's like right there in your face, you cannot escape it. So yeah, so there were ghosts of the past knocking on a door, wanting to be addressed, whether energetically or communication from other people, and so through which other things were being triggered and brought to the surface of the consciousness. So I really felt that it was an experience where a lot of things got seeded and stirred up. A lot of things were stirred up and brought to the surface. And now, being in Slovakia right now, there is absolutely nothing going on because it's all this busyness, interacting with the family and stuff for a week, like obviously changing contents of suitcases because getting ready for the relocation to Mexico again for the winter season and stuff. And yeah, everything that comes with that. And then I really feel that going back to Mexico, which for me always represents the young energy, even though again there is it's just so funny, like the yin yang, how they coexist together, because Bali was very yin energy, but there was a lot of busyness. So like the yin and the yang were present, but in a very different way. Whereas Mexico has a very young energy, like very masculine energy, like we're doing and stuff, passion, fire. But there is much more like a the experience I've had in Mexico until this point, obviously, I don't know what I don't know with regards to the experience that's upcoming, was that I feel much more connected to spirit, have much more time or space in everyday reality to integrate spiritual practices and to meditate and stuff, where I found that very difficult in Bali, very difficult to actually do the spiritual, like to put the spiritual practices into practice, like to excavate the time for meditation and stuff, because you're so surrounded by the spiritual, right? Like, anybody who's been in Bali, they know how people there live, the temples and their habits, giving offerings to the gods 3 times a day, the incense you can see, smell everywhere, right? So it is a very spiritual way of life. So it feels like, well, I don't need to sit in meditation because everything here is like spiritual kind of, right? So it's this is like it's very interesting, that connection of like, okay, Bali very yin, but actually both being felt and experienced as young energy, whereas Mexico I would identify as very young energy, but I experience it through the yin energy. So it's like, it doesn't make sense. It even doesn't make sense for me to say it and try to explain it, but that's how I experience it. So yeah, so with regards to my work and YouTube channel, I can also feel like that I was meant to record with Lara this week, and then things didn't happen. They didn't work out because of personal reasons and stuff, and also things that are outside of our control. So that has to be postponed to another time. So I really feel like how me trying to do the things the way I always done that is just not possible. Spirit is not allowing me to do things the same way, even with this recording, having like, I'm recording this while my fiance is having a massage. So okay, let's quickly get something done while, I don't have to feel like guilty or anything for like just trying to hide in a room doing my own thing, which before obviously wasn't a big deal, because this is how I've always been being around my family and stuff. But there is a component of a new person involved now, and everything is being different. Even this is something that in our personal conversations I pointed out, that all these places I'm revisiting with my partner now, it's a different experience. It's like the old experience is being transmuted into a different experience through the lens of a relationship with someone else, or through a different lens that is being used by another person being present or something. So it's just, I feel like this video doesn't even make any sense, but I really feel that it is right on point with the astrology, being in a Scorpio season. Obviously right now as I'm recording this, Mars is on these final degrees of Scorpio in his traditional rulership. Mars in Scorpio is pointing us inwards to dig out all the muck, dig out all the shadows, dig out all these things that we don't want to face or don't want to deal with. But now Pluto no longer retro, Pluto direct, right? Pluto is direct, and now like all of this has to be integrated into forward momentum in this new way, because Uranus is still in Gemini, and Bali for both me and Aaron is Gemini rising. So it was all about these new timelines, about the opportunity to see things in a different way, like the same interactions with people, the same arguments, the same BS that has to be talked about or dealt with over and over and over and over again, and there is no resolution. But it's like, okay, but what are you learning? Like, is there a different different point of view, different perspective, different realization, different awareness, like what is being gained from this interaction, rather than just see it as a nuisance, like why is this happening again or something. Same for being here in Slovakia, you know, like all the excitement of visiting family and stuff, at least for me, wears off in the like first 72 hours max, you know. And then it's like, oh my god, you know, why did I think it would be different? But it is always different, you know. There's always an opportunity for a different expression of the same energy. So that's what I feel very strongly with these energies of the astrology that are going on at the moment. And you know, even though we are out of the eclipse season, we have been out of the eclipse season for a month, right? We already had a full moon in Aries and the new moon in Libra, but I'm sure I mentioned that when I was pre-recording my astrological overview for October. But I said that actually no, because the what was it, full moon in Aries was seeded by the eclipse, right? The new moon in Aries in March was an eclipse, the final one in Aries for this cycle. And the new moon in Libra we just had recently, like less than 2 weeks ago, that one was also seeded with the new moon in Libra eclipse, right? Which was a year ago, like because the lunations like go from new moon to new moon. The full moon is the midpoint, right? So it's interesting how the eclipse okay, let me like try to verbalize it. Okay, so the energy, this like a fatalistic, or not even fatalistic, because we have a free will choice, the destined energies that we are interacting with at the moment on an individual and collective level are at play, but they also especially at play because of the nodes being in this Virgo Pisces. And as I mentioned, you know, Pisces is all that is, and Virgo is the all that's in the spirit is currently incarnate, having a physical experience, right? So is the all that is in a physical, you know, while it is in a physical. So that's what I mean, you know, like these like very destined energies, you can call it karmic, you can call it whatever you want, are at play, you know, even though we are not like, oh yeah, we are not in eclipse right now, so it's like, oh, you know, we good until next February, right, when we have the eclipse in Aquarius. But the energies are here, you know, the energies are here. They're like they are underlining everything else that's going on, everything else that's happening. So when you look at these, or not even look at it, when you keep this at the back of your mind, that everything that's going on in your life and also in the collective is underlined by this energy of like, these are destined times, you know, we were born for these times, these things were always going to happen. And you know, this energy of like eclipses, which is like very you know, like, yeah, we have a free will, but there are things that are outside of our control. They just are, right? They're just happening, right? You don't have to do anything, you know, like the world stage and stuff, like, you know, that's not in your control. It's not in my control, right? The natural disaster, stuff like this, these are things that are not in my control or your control. You know, these things are happening and they have a purpose and a meaning. You know, there is a reason why they are play, all these things. So it's the same thing about your personal experience, your personal life, like whatever you're going through, whatever I am going through, whatever we all going through on the individual level as well. It's like it is meant to be happening right now. You know, these things are meant to be happening, especially like I said, now with Mars still in the final degrees of Scorpio, things are being like brought to the surface of our consciousness, you know, to our awareness, that have to be addressed, right? They have to be addressed because these new timelines are available and we can choose them, but we cannot choose them if we keep repeating the same story. And this is something which I am being becoming very aware of, have been becoming very aware of for the past, well, years since Aaron entered my life. These things became very conscious to me, you know, like, so no longer walking around in my own life asleep asleep behind the driving wheel, but becoming more and more aware of patterns and stories and these, you know, these things that are no longer working, that are no longer resonating, that are no longer in alignment. So once again, you know, even though this might be not necessarily relevant or applicable to other people, you know, like everybody's going through whatever they're going through, you know, and it's all unique to the individual. but we are all experience this energy in some way, being in Scorpio season. Mars is in Scorpio, Venus is in her rulership still in the sign of Libra. Things have to be balanced. We know Venus is the former ruler of the south node prior to that north node. Venus is going to be the ruler of Uranus again, not long from now, only a week plus, just over a week from now. Uranus is going to enter back into the sign of Taurus, so Venus is going to be the ruler, right? And Venus is going to be moving into the sign of Scorpio, right? When is that? Is it like at the 4th or something? Let's see, when is Venus moving back into Scorpio? 7th, right? So yeah, it's the same time. It's right before Uranus moves into the sign of Taurus. So isn't that interesting? We'll have Venus in the sign of Scorpio on the anaretics when Uranus moves back into sign of Taurus on the anaretic, right? 29 degrees and 0 degrees or 1 degree or something. So these things are coming around, and they're coming around quickly and unexpectedly, and they have to be addressed because a lot of these energies are like these murky still waters, they are just like standing still and not allowing us to move forward. So that's why I feel even, with my content or my expression or my work, I want to move forward, but there are still these energies that are keeping me stuck in the past, right? Keeping me recreate the same pattern, repeat the same mistakes, like having the opportunity to learn the same lessons. It's much easier to observe this with other people, like than yourself. It's much harder to see this in your own experience, because obviously, we have blind spots and you don't see yourself, right? You don't see yourself. You learn from the other, through the Libra. So it's much easier for me to observe this pattern, like in my partner, how it's so difficult to create new patterns or move forward when there is a past knocking on your door, wanting your attention, wanting you to wanting to fill majority of the time of your day. How can you focus on creating new expression, new direction, where your energy is focused on what was, and the energy of the past wants your attention and kind of completely take over your energy. But it's the same for everyone, right? It's just easier to see in other people or through external circumstances. So that's why we always have the mirror, right? So it gives us an opportunity to see ourselves because we otherwise can't see ourselves. It's the same like with the Taurus and Libra in conjunction, or the Libra and the Pisces in conjunction. Not everybody will understand, not everybody will see the same meaning, the same symbology. That's why we all learn in our own language, right? It's interesting, obviously, with this Mercury now in Sagittarius and soon to be going retrograde and then moving back into the sign of Scorpio. And in order to feel empowered, you have to understand your own language, your Taurus. You have to understand what these things mean to you, because they will mean something completely different to different people. We all have in our unique experience, and again, it's easy to see when other people interacting, right? Like my partner and people that are close to him from the previous chapter of his life, like they don't see things the way the way he sees them, or like my family might not see things the way I see them, because we all have different paths, different values, different sense of meaning in life, right? So like it might make perfect sense to me, but it made no sense to other people, right? So that's the thing, like you have to understand your own language, your own guidance, your own like the way your soul communicates with you, like what holds a meaning to you, because it might not make any sense to someone else. Obviously, like somebody once said, I don't know who it was, in which channel, but they said that your soul would have created these like breadcrumbs throughout your life, through people, circumstances, symbols, like things, even like when you walk around the day, and if like for me, I always pay attention to numbers and stuff, but like most people wouldn't notice. It makes no difference to them. Some people might have they're looking at clouds all day, looking at the clouds, in shape of clouds. I notice those sometimes, but I don't keep looking up, like for me, I keep looking down most of the time, like earthbound. So that's what I mean, like only you know what these things mean to you. So with all of these other energies, and like, yeah, I haven't even seen the chart of the full moon in Taurus, but it is a full moon, which is the illumination of like what is the foundation that you want to be creating going forward. This is right before Uranus moves back into Taurus. So at the time of the full moon in Taurus, Uranus is still in the sign of Gemini. So we are creating these new timelines, but what foundation do you want to build them on? Because obviously with Uranus moving to Taurus for the final time, right? From this November 7, 8 until the end of April, the old foundation is no longer sustainable. And we can even see that like in the world, how things are just, they just cannot keep going forward the way they always been. You can see it in your children or grandchildren, you know, these kids being born, they're very different. The educational system, it's not supporting their development. It's like, okay, well, here we got a system, you know, this is the way things always been done, this is what we've always taught, this is the curriculum, but it is not necessarily helpful or efficient for these kids, right? You know, things are changing, so that's why everything has to change. The foundation of our life, micro and macro, is changing, and we all feel it in our own personal experience. Like, you know, like I shared in summer when I came back from spring, late spring, when I came back from Mexico, I felt like an imposter, you know, coming back after the experience I had with my partner in Mexico and coming back to Slovakia, you know, to my family, and I felt like a different person with memories of someone else, but I didn't feel connected to it. I didn't feel it was my experience. I just had the database in my head, like, oh yeah, I remember where my things are, but I didn't have any like a felt memory, like, oh yeah, this is how I felt with regards to this experience or something, you know. So it was just like I have the data, but it is not my experience anymore. So in a sense, now coming back from Bali and again like revisiting, you know, I was trying to explain it to Aaron the other day when we were walking in the nature, and I said that when I came from Mexico, it felt like I've changed, but everything else is the same. That's why I felt that sense like not belonging anymore, like being the imposter. Like nothing's changed, but I've changed. I no longer belong. But now coming back from Bali, I felt like I've changed and everything's changed too, but it didn't necessarily change the same way I changed. It's just like everything is like mixed up, you know, everything got mixed up. Like when you shuffle the cards, you know, everything's changed, the pattern changed, so nothing is the same anymore. I'm not the same, and now the outside environment is not the same either. It's just the question is, what is the new pattern that's being created, and is it going to be in alignment or not? And this is what I feel everybody is going through, consciously or unconsciously. Everything is changing, you are changing, and the outer world is changing. What is it changing to is it's yet to be seen, you know, it's yet to be created, yet to be discovered. The question is it in resonance or not? And the one thing that I've noticed in myself, and it's something I'm working on, is that I have a lot of awareness and understanding, and the understanding of like why, and also something that I realized, especially after this summer um, of complete unexpected events that had a very strong emotional impact and after effects. Like I felt that these past few months really like humbled me, which, you know, might not be the experience of people observing me, but I feel that way in myself, you know, whereas before I was much more certain, much more sure, much more like in my ego about, oh, I know what's right, I know where I'm going, I know everything, right? Not really, but, you know, like being more certain, being more like clear by repetition of the pattern. But now I don't know, and I really don't know, and I'm not even afraid to say like I just don't know. I don't know, because the pattern that existed in the past is fractured, is dismantled. It is kind of no longer there, but there is no new pattern yet. So that's what I mean. So I don't know where I was trying to go with this, because obviously I keep jumping like, you know, to different rabbit holes, and then I lose my thread. I lose my thread. But yeah, like things are, oh yeah, about the external environment and the pattern, whether they're gonna fit into each other or not. It's just, it's yet to be seen. So that's what I mean, even with regards to my YouTube channel, my work, or what am I going to do? How am I gonna put things out there? Like, yeah, like in Bali, things. What was I talking about? There was something I wanted to explain. Yeah, like it was about that everything changed on the outside now, and nothing is the same. And then I really felt that, like, being here for this week, like now everything is really just standstill in the present. Like in Bali, things were like put on a pause with regards to my actioning, because always doing the same thing, nothing is changing, going to get the same result. So all of that was being put on a pause, but there were things happening. The external world was getting was very like involved, was very involved in my experience, because I was not busy, by busying myself. So I was very engaged with the external world, and that had an impact, right? And now here it's like a different energy, because it's like everything is on pause, and being in the old familiar, rather than Bali, the non-familiar, things are experienced differently. And then I feel like, going back to Mexico, but actually not going back, going forward with Mexico, um, things are going to change again. So this is also why I feel like it is not the right time to initiate this week. I don't even know if next week, but I feel that perhaps maybe I'll know when I know, but I don't know right now. So that's why I'm recording this video, which is a little bit of hybrid of everything, where I'm not really telling you anything. I'm just trying to express my thought process or my experience, where I have no clue. I have no clue what's going on. And actually, interestingly, I've noticed this on many people that I have been, well, many people. I follow very few people. I actually don't follow almost anybody, very few people I follow. But one particular tarot reader I've been following for the past few years, she's retiring her channel. She's like my age. It seems like she's on a similar trajectory, just got married herself. And yeah, now suddenly she's shutting the operation down, even though she's got a very rich following, over 140,000 subscribers. And she's just unexpectedly announced that she's taking down her channel, deleting everything. And nobody knows nothing. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows what's happening, why. And I can totally resonate. Because that's kind of like how I feel to a certain extent. Like I started this channel and this work in 2023, right? 2023, yeah. Yeah, Christmas 2022 coming into 2023, right? Because 2022 was when my life took a sharp turn. So yeah, so it will be 3 years in January when I started this channel. And yeah, and it's gone through ups and downs, where especially after starting to work for Lada in summer 2023, things like were really like blooming, and things were really going right and stuff. And then things like were like kind of stagnant for a while. And now, especially this year, things just like started going downwards, and there is not the same level of fulfillment and satisfaction. And I somehow always knew when I started this channel that it was going to be this expression of me was temporary. It was some kind of bridging thing, right? Like bridging thing from my prior life in England, like a normal life. I mean, my life was never really normal. I mean, before working on a cruise ship for 8 years, and then studying astrology, like very intensively, 3-4 courses at the same time over the period of 2 years. And yeah, anyway, and then yeah, relocating, deciding to quit my life in England and just step into the unknown in December 2022, and then studying all of this. But I always somehow knew that this was not it. It was, I mean, nothing is ever it, there is no final destination, like we always growing and evolving. But I knew that this was going to be temporary. And then I remember me and my soulsis Marissa, we've had these conversations many times, where this was prior to me meeting Aaron, where I was saying that, is this it? Is this it? Just me creating this crazy schedule for myself, just working nonstop, making videos nobody's watching, and like, is this it? Is this it? Is this now going to be the rest of my life? Like waiting for what? To die? And then I kind of had the realization that, and this is my personal experience. I'm not saying this is how it is. This is just how I've experienced in this, that even this is just still playing the same game, like whether you play the game of the matrix of working in the office, or playing the game of the matrix by trying to make a living, like survive by doing, this kind of thing, being an astrologer or a tarot reader or whatever, but you're still playing the same game, you're still a slave, because you still have to hustle and create some kind of insane schedule for yourself to be able to survive in this matrix, right? The way it is built, and also with these boiling frogs, things are always, you're never on the top of the game, while you're playing the game, you have to rise above the game. So while you keep playing this game, it's like you can never catch up with it, because you're not in charge of the game. There are people in charge of these systems, of the financial system and stuff, and you always just chasing your tail. You're always trying to catch up. Like, okay, you make more money now, everything gets more expensive, now you're trying to make more money than things did. You're always just trying to catch up, but you're never catching up, right? So this is where I realized, like, quite a while ago, could be year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago, it didn't take me long, where this is still just the same game, like, okay, I don't work for a boss, I work for myself, but I'm still slave to the system, right? And obviously, I don't mean this to be like some kind of like a doom and gloom video or nothing. No, I'm just sharing my experience, my thought process here. And I'm, again, not saying this is the truth, I'm not saying this is everybody's experience, I'm just saying my realization that I had with regards to this. So yeah, so now being in Bali and not working at all for, like, well, coming like almost to 2 months, but like fully not working, like, while I was in Bali for these 5.5, almost 6 weeks. I realized that, well, this is a really good place to be, because obviously not doing anything for such a long time, I have the opportunity to create something different. I don't have to go back to what I did. I can decide what the hell I want to do, even though I don't know what it is. So that's why even this video, like, when we recorded the video with Aaron, the summary of Bali, I said to him, like, this is what I want to do more of, like with regards to astrology, you can just talk to ChatGPT, I can spit out all the facts and logistics and, like all this, like, mind thing, because it knows everything. It knows all the data, everything that's been fed into the database of internet, and it can give it to you quickly, right? And that's what we all want, right? We want convenience, we want things fast, but it can't tell you how it feels in a lived life. ChatGPT cannot tell you, or any AI cannot tell you how this is experienced in life, how you've gone through this experience, because it is not human. It's not human. It's not, so you can find the data about the lunations, all the aspects and all the theory behind it everywhere. You don't have to hear me say it to you. You can find this anywhere you want. But everybody's experiencing these energies differently, and perhaps that's what people are seeking at this time. This is what I know. It's something that I want to hear. Obviously, this particular tarot reader I mentioned, I'm interested how this is going on for her. I don't care about what transit she's going. I'm sure there is a logical explanation why she's going through this, but I don't care. We all have something going on in a chart. You can always find a reason, an explanation, whatever you believe, you're going to find a proof for it. I want to know how this feels in her life. How is she going through this experience? So that's why, when we recorded that video with Aaron, I'm like, let's not make it about astrology. Let's just tell people about life. It might not even interest anybody, but I want to talk about it. So this is kind of where I feel more like, let's just talk about life. I don't know, like I really don't know. I really don't know. I don't even know if anybody listening. I'm just talking to myself here, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I really feel that this, especially November, because it is the Scorpio season, obviously now being Halloween, the Samhain, and like in different places in the world, depending on the religion and the culture of the country. Here in Slovakia is the All Saints Day tomorrow, where people go like to graveyard, to pay respect to the dead people and stuff. And I know in Mexico, where we heading, it's the Dias de los Muertos, right? So there's gonna be a huge celebrations for that. And this is where the veil is very thin, right? Very thin. Obviously, moon is moving into Pisces today. It's going to enter into Aries on Sunday, literally as we land in Mexico. It's so funny because I never look at astrology when I'm booking my flights. Never. But somehow it's always Perfect, so like leaving here with the moon in Pisces and then arriving in Mexico with the moon in Aries. I mean, it is what it is, right? So yeah, so that's what I mean, that there is energy at play at this time, and I feel especially November is going to be very present because of the Scorpio component, and then Venus as the ruler of Uranus, to be ruler of Uranus, and Uranus is the ruler of Pluto, and Uranus retrograde. So this is where the acceleration is still happening internally, whereas planet direct, the acceleration is now going through the experience you have in with the outer reality. I have everything retrograde, so I'm kind of backwards. But anyway, this is normally how it shows up. So we have Venus going into Scorpio soon. We will feel this very strongly, especially through the relational dynamics, and relationships are everything, everything in this reality is relational. So that's what I feel. November is going to be very interesting month because a lot of things is going to be part of our processing, especially with regards to the things that are not yet transmuted, transformed, digested, eliminated. Scorpio is about elimination. So yeah, so I feel that this will be really accelerated because we don't have much time left in this year number 9, which is about endings, which is the year of Hermit, right? The opportunity to look for the lamp, for the guiding light from within, and this is also something that I really been struggling with to integrate into my life since I left Slovakia in September, to meet up with Aaron to reconnect. And this is something that really has to be, I think, integrated into everybody's life, into everybody's experience, to excavate that time, to make that time to be able to connect with yourself. And I know Lee Harris, who is still one of the people I follow, he was talking about it in this October energy update. I know by the time if you're watching this, he will have released his November update, so I'm curious what he's going to share there. But in October, that was one of the theme he mentioned for the energy of October, that cultivating the connection with your inner light, because it's great that we have all these relational dynamics going on with the outer world, but this is something that I also started craving very deeply when I was in Bali, because of that lack of that. And this is where I feel like there has to be a balance, just being in meditation all day long every day. Like, few people came here to have that experience for their life, but not many, because now, especially Age of Aquarius, it is all about collaboration, creation together as a network, so yeah, let's see how this November will play out for the micro and macro, but we're going deeper, and because then on the other side of that, with the Sagi and moving into the final month of this year, number 9, we are already in the energy of 10 anyway. This is the underlying thing, that whatever is happening, this is already bridging you into these new timelines and new frequencies, which we will be then embodying and manifesting throughout next year, with all of these young, again, what I started with these planets moving into the masculine sign to stay for the upcoming future. Saturn, Neptune in Aries, Uranus in Gemini, Jupiter then in the second half of the year in Leo, and the nodes moving into Aquarius, Leo in July, right? In July. So we have a lot of forward momentum for the year number 10, which is again the 0 and the 1, the Magician, the Fool and the Magician, and the Wheel of Fortune, which in itself is the Jupiterian card. So we have a lot of forward momentum ahead of us. So that's why I feel, especially in the Scorpio season, there is a lot of inner focus. And with Mercury being retrograde for the majority of November, and going from that Sagittarius back into the sign of Scorpio, and then forward, and then back into Sag in December, and having these two conjunction with Mars in Scorpio and Sag, and then last time Mercury conjuncted Mars in Sag and then Capricorn. That's the before this, the last time they had a conjunction in January 2024, that was in Capricorn, but before that they had a conjunction in December 2023 in the sign of Sagittarius when Mercury was retrograde. So yeah, there are all these cycles within cycles within cycles, and at the end of the day, all of this is helping us to become aware of patterns, break the patterns, and create new patterns if the old patterns are no longer serving, working for us, and don't make us happy. Because now with this age of Aquarius, and the deeper we go into it, not living in alignment with your authenticity will become unbearable, more and more unbearable. And this is also something that me and Aaron spoke about. People either will embody the Aquarian energy or they will self-destruct. It will be the energy of self-destruction, because you cannot live life against yourself forever. So anyway, guys, it is going to be an interesting month. That's all I'm saying. I don't really know how this is going to play out, not even for me, least for anybody else. But I know that it's going to be a very interesting month, with the Scorpio season and all these things that are going on throughout this month. So yeah, as I already mentioned, if I feel called to, I will create lunational videos throughout November. I don't have any schedule. I am not gonna create any pattern just yet, but I'll just see how it flows and how I feel being in Mexico under this new energy. So yeah, let's just play it as it goes, as it comes. And yeah, I'm just gonna pull cards from three decks. Okay, there is one that shame. Interesting. I'm gonna shuffle this one again. I'm just using three decks over here, so I'm gonna pull some cards and leave it at that. 50 minutes already. So this is the cosmic crossroads. I feel very strongly, and you might remember me saying that I already mentioned this deck, that this is a deck that I seem to be pulled towards the most since it was released. Amanda Lynn Aisling, it was released sometime, I think, in spring or summer this year, and since it's been released, this is the deck I feel the most called to, because I guess of where we at collectively and individually with the cosmic crossroads, and Uranus in the sign of Gemini. I feel this is perfect deck for this. So let's see. So what are the energies, collective energies for November? Where are we at, with this Scorpio season? Yeah, so we already had the shame winking at us. Let's see what else, if anything, wants to come out. Okay, I'm just gonna pull. All right, reflection, perfect. Number 32, which is the number 5. And I did mention this before, through the number 5, the chaos agent, we have to be present. That's what I said about Bali. It was so chaotic. There was so much interaction with the external world, with the motorbikes and everything. Like, everybody wants your attention. You can't even go to the beach and just sit and look at the ocean. Always somebody coming, trying to sell you something, trying to have a conversation. So through all of that, you are forced to be present. Present to reflect, present to go within. So yeah, reflection, very scorpionic. And then at the bottom we have sadness. Oh, this is number 33. Interesting, because this is a 32. So 33, yeah, I feel, and this is something again which I did mention in conversation a couple of days ago, where I said that I do feel the nostalgia. I do have these moments of awareness of how the experience of life on this planet is changing, and how there is a level of nostalgia and sadness connected to that. Like, oh yeah, it's great to go, oh thanks God this is going, but we have emotional attachment to that, and and we don't really know how much we will miss it until it's gone, because it's the familiarity of that. So there is a lot of, and this is very reminding me of the star card, right, from the tarot, the naked person. Like, we are going through this process of rebirth individually and collectively, to set ourselves free, to go after that rainbow, to go after that which we desire to experience authentically. But there is a level of sadness, of nostalgia, even if it was poisonous or whatever it was, whatever it was that we adjusted to, like the mushrooms after the rain, there's the things that come out, but it did nurture us to a certain extent, it did make us who we are. So there is a level of sadness, and that's something that has to be balanced inside of us. Through this chaos, there is a lot of stuff that's coming up to the surface that is showing us about these personalities we created in order to adjust to these conditions, to this society, to these rules, right? So now a lot of these things are changing. A lot of these personas that we created will no longer be necessary, in a sense, this raw authentic expression of who you are. You cannot hide behind anything. You're naked, you cannot hide. And there is a level of sadness. I'm sure all these actors that played in all these sitcoms and rom-coms and stuff, or TV series, and when that is packed up and ended, there is a sadness. Yes, there are new exciting opportunities ahead. You'll be playing a different role, but you will still have the sadness and nostalgia attached to the times that were gone. So this is what I feel. There is a reflection, opportunity to reflect on what it is that we attach to, and nurture that aspect of ourselves, give ourselves that time and compassion to go like, yeah, I want this to change. I want this to be think of a past, but at the same time, I do feel sad that things will never be the same, and this is again something that multiple time popped up for me in my interactions in Bali, like, okay, well, I will never be the person who I were, and it's not a bad thing, but it doesn't mean that there is not a level of sadness or nostalgia connected to it. Yeah, and underneath it is change. Yeah, number 5, another change. Things are changing, and that's something that's, yeah, individuality. Perfect. This is all these cards, and it's interesting because we have 2 5s and 2 6s. Reflect, because things are changing. Things are, look at this beautiful card, and then it's, and I get 2 rainbows. Individuality. And this is the stepping into your authentic expression, even though it is not a Leo, but it's the cat, the wild cat. Cats can't be tamed. Everybody owning cat as a pet in their household, you don't own your cat. Cat, it's not to be owned. They are very sovereign, right? So we are going through this process of individuation, stepping into our sovereignty, giving ourselves the permission to be who we are, to be authentic, to be free, to be ourselves, and that is a change, huge change for humanity. But there is a sadness connected to that. Okay, let's see, 5th card. Yeah, freedom. Number 19, number 10 next year, and again another rainbow. The flying carpet, right? Allowing yourself to be free, allow your dreams and visions to set you free. And the quartz, you have to go through some poisonous things, to some things that are not easy. There is a quartz holds a memory of everything that happened. That is the most amazing hard drive, right? It holds a memory. Also the Lemurian, there's been a lot of channeling, a lot of talk about the Lemurian frequency, and how the Lemurian essence have been buried in different parts of the world in the crystals, right? So yeah, that's our ultimate freedom, through the change we're learning about who we really are, being reborn as a humanity, setting ourselves free. All these birds, right, growing wings, being authentic, the path to freedom. But you have to give yourself the permission. Okay, and here we have the lantern, the, gosh, I forgot what it's called, the something lantern. So let's see. Yeah, I forgot what is the full name of this deck. Something lantern. I'll put in the description. Let's see what is the card that wants to speak. Wishful expectations. Acknowledge the smoke and mirrors in your life for what they are, and it's number 14. Another number 5, and it's interesting, there is a wheel, and it's also interesting that the clocks just changed. For us it's changed last Saturday. I know in the US and Canada it will be this Saturday, exactly as we have in a overlay transit through a port, so we'll be waiting extra hour. But yeah, reflections, again, reflections, right? Just like this other one, wishful expectations. This other one, reflections. Things are cyclical, they always come around, bring a lot of emotions, so we don't have to keep repeating the same pattern, and also, like I said, this reminds me of clock, like the chronos, the time. You cannot, things will not just disappear. You cannot just free yourself from things that happened without taking responsibility and changing them, like with the Saturn energy, the maturation, the responsibility, the growth. Right? Things don't just disappear on their own. They have to be transmuted. They have to change. And I feel with the Jupiter in Cancer and obviously preparing for the retrograde. Did I say Jupiter was stationed in retrograde on the 11/11? This one I might have missed. Jupiter stationed in retrograde on the 11/11. Yeah, that will be the acceleration, like through the inner processing, the feeling of the emotion. You know, we were interacting with all of these external to stir up in emotion. I know that's been definitely the case for me and the ones in my life, loved ones in my life, and then we will be really like having to have to process all of that, the water, right? But you're not of it, you're in the world, but you're not of the world, allowing the things to move through you. Wishful expectations, yeah, face the things, the lies. And yeah, key to intimacy, number 21. This is the world card in a tarot, but intimate love is the core need to be met in relation to ourselves and those closest to us. The journey to intimacy often includes learning what love is not, just like this one, the expectations, you know. And it's interesting because me and Aaron just been watching something while we were at my parents, you know, on Netflix. Not something I ever do. I don't really watch television at all, but we were watching something and it was again relational dynamics and stuff, and I was like, what the hell is this, you know? Like, do really people think that this is like real? Anyway, I don't want to go into details or mention what it was, but yeah, you know, people have to experience a lot of things in order to realize through the contrast, realize what they actually want, what it isn't. So I feel like with this, you know, there are all these, like, especially in this thing we were watching on the television, you know, like it's described like it's this, like how society tries to program us to believe that if you have all of these things, if you act like this, look like this, behave like this, you be happy, you know, because this is the ultimate, you know, the designers, the men, the car, the vacations, this is the ultimate. But it isn't the same thing for everyone. For some people perhaps that is, for many people that is not. So it's like us, you know, being stuck in this wheel, you know, in this wheel of how we've always lived, what we always thought, how we always done things, and all these emotions that are connected to this, stuck with it. And you know, we part of that wheel, we part of these cycles, right? And then we have to face this, like these are expectations, internal, external, projected onto us, and the ones we put onto ourselves to give us the opportunity to experience things, to then realize what it isn't. You know, this like kind of reminds me of like the hermit, right? The lamp, what it isn't, you know. And it's like on her heart, kind of close to her heart, you know, the light, the positioning, it's close to her heart, close to her heart chakra. We have to experience what it is. We have to be intimately involved with life, you know, like with one another. Like obviously relational dynamic, number one thing we came here to experience. We had to forget who we are, and we really have to get into life, to have all of these experiences based on the expectations, to realize the illusions of it, and to be able through this role playing that we are doing over here on this planet to change the pattern. So that is the whole like caveat, you know, that is the whole challenge, that yes, you know, we forgot and we play this role and we so like intimately involved with all of this, because obviously you know, if you knew this is all like just fake and it's temporary and stuff, then why bother? Right? You know, like we have to really get involved, really believe it, really like play the role so well. Although, you know, like when you're watching a backed actress or an actor, you go like, you know, they're not even like trying, right? Like the good actor really makes you believe that they are the bad guy or the good guy or whatever they are. So we really have to be invested in our life in order to be able to feel the emotion truly, deeply, and then change the pattern. So yeah, and it's the number 21, which is, like I said, the world card. You know, the world card, this kind of like the wheel of the world, you know, everything is cyclical, and us as a humanity are coming to the end, to the graduation point of this way of expressing, this way of relating, this way of living on this planet in your own personal experience, which you are feeling through how your old life, old way of being might not resonate or make you happy anymore. And then collectively how we are experiencing and perceiving the same thing over and over and over again, you know, the division, separation, wars, conflicts, la 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 la. And how before maybe we were like, oh yeah, this is justified. Now it's like, why? why are we going through this again? Why are we doing this to ourselves again? So anyway, yeah, sometimes we have to realize what it is that we want through the experiences that we don't really want. And then final cards, let's just use the major arcana and see what the major arcana wants to advise with regards to the energies of November and what we're stepping into. The well being very thin today, Halloween, the Empress, number 3, the co-creation, Empress, the Venus. Venus is currently in the sign of Libra, the balance, the relationships, but also the foundation, being pregnant, you know, with these opportunities for something new, for birthing. You know, Uranus being a sign of Gemini, right? And Sagittarius, Mercury in Sagittarius. So this is the opportunity. You know, we had this Mercury opposition to Uranus. That was the first aspect Mercury made. And now this sextile to Pluto, you know, and this is obviously going to be repeated again because Mercury is going to go retrograde. So we're going to have 3 of these. So there is this opportunity to choose these new timelines, create a different foundation based on what matters to you. You know, this is Venus, your relationship to yourself and to others, you know, because the relationship to others always is a reflection or a mirror of your relationship towards yourself. How they say, you know, people treat you only the way you allow them to treat you. You know, they can't treat you any other way. So here we go. So, you know, the future is looking bright if you choose it to be, because number 3 in astrology, you know, is the number of Gemini, right? 3rd house, Gemini. So what is the choice that we are making with regards to the future we create in it? You know, with the mind, what are we choosing? What story, what paradigm, what program, right? Is it still in alignment with your needs, values, and the relational dynamics you wish to be experiencing or not? And this is where every one of us has the opportunity to ask ourselves that questions and choose something different if it is not, you know, like honor yourself. And this is something where I feel a lot of people struggle, and this will be even more highlighted once Chiron goes back into Taurus next year. That this is a return for people with Pluto in Libra. A lot of them have Chiron in a sign of Taurus, where you have to own your own sense of self-worth, because the external world will not treat you any better until you decide that I deserve it. I deserve better than this. And this is yet another thing that I feel many people are challenged with, you know, like, if I choose me, then I'm betraying you. But actually, no, if you don't choose yourself, then you're betraying everyone. And then, yeah, Hanged Man, and this is another number 3. This is a number 12, which is number 3, you know, Hanged Man. This is the Neptune card. Things are not what they look. We have to look at them from a different perspective, right? And also, yes, they say this card represents delays. And when we turn it this way, it's like the person in the world card. Let's see if that's one there. Oh no, it's the Aquarius card. Aquarius card and the Fool. Oh, this is beautiful. I'm gonna leave it at that. Yeah. Yeah, there is an opportunity to own your worth, and that will change your relationships to everything, right? Create a new relational dynamic. Yeah, we have to look at things differently, you know. This is about our spiritual awakening. And yeah, the future that you are creating, the future that you're choosing next year, within the year 10, you know, being the Fool, starting the new cycle from the 0. Uranus currently on the anaretic 0 degrees, soon to be moving into the anaretic 29. Venus will be soon entering into Scorpio, anaretic 0, right? And Mars prior to that into Sag, anaretics again. And we have the Mercury preparing for his retrograde, so it's going to go over the anaretic degrees multiple times, right? Back to the 0, back to 29, and then 29 and back to 0. So we have all of these alpha and omega energies going on to create this new, the age of Aquarius. You are in this earth, but you're not of this earth. You are the star. You are the child of the universe. Child of the universe. You know, we all have cosmic origin. All right. I feel I'll leave it at this. So, as I already mentioned, I can't really tell you what exactly will be published on my channel in the upcoming weeks or even months, who knows. But I am back to work, so whoever wish to connect or would like to get a advisement through astrology, I really feel that it's not as much about astrology, but about what I as a as a being went through and was able to learn or transmute, which now exists in my energetical field. And whoever resonate will then through our interaction be able to tap into that. And yeah, because we don't really it's not the verbiage. You see, this is something I realize. It is not the verbiage, it is not what somebody tells you. It's about being present in that other person's energy and being able to wrap off their energetic field, and then whatever that person gone through in their experience then becomes part of your energetic field, and vice versa, right? So if anybody resonates, then do connect, and let's see what we can co-create together, obviously through the lens of astrology, even though it is not just about astrology. And then, as before, I offered a 25% discount of birthday readings. So whoever is celebrating their birthday or just recently had their birthday or will be celebrating birthday in the upcoming months, then you feel free to take advantage of the 25% discount, the birthday discount. And yeah, and I think that's about it. That's about all I have to share at this time. So I wish you all a wonderful November and Scorpio season, and I'll speak to you again in the next one. Much love, everyone, and bye for now.